do you think that artists are paying attention to how the social media platforms are set up? And do you think that there are artists shifting towards what works for them?
I absolutely think they are. I think they don't really have a choice, really. It's so hard to grow if you're not at least cognizant of A, where you're growing the most and where you want to grow your platform and what that means. You have to be fully aware of that. But the funny thing is, there's always that balance. As you're mentioning, it's like you can't lose yourself to whatever algorithm that you've chosen to be subservient to. Like you have to make yourself happy with your own work. Otherwise, none of this matters. TikTok is really cool. Like I've seen some amazing stuff happening there. But at the same time, you see sort of the dark side of all the social media platforms like TikTok often, doesn't emphasize Black creators or doesn't give them a lot of credit or attention, or literally the algorithm doesn't work with them. Like that's crazy. You even see huge properties like Fortnite taking dances from Black creators on TikTok
Yep.
and then rebranding it and erasing them completely. And then all of a sudden it becomes a TikTok dance and not like, like a Millie Rock or something. And that's so shocking to see, but that's also kind of the danger you run into just by using social media, just by getting yourself out there. So it's important to grow your brand in as many different ways as possible, because who knows what will happen to any social media. We're seeing it right now with Instagram. It sucks that they're going, into sort of a more video direction, but if you're a photographer, you should have a website that's independent of any social media. You should have a set place that is yours. That's your portion of the internet. These other avenues are offshoots. So if anything happens to that offshoot, you still have that core place, that core location, and you can transition back and recollect yourself and figure out where you want to go next. Just being nimble is really important, because every company, every brand is just trying to maximize profits. Instagram saw that TikTok's making money. They're like, hey, like I totally agree with you. They had a niche. There is really no other prominent photo sharing app, social media place right now. There's a you could try Flickr, but who's really on there? There's Visco is doing okay, but it's like Instagram is so huge and so ubiquitous. So it's kind of a shame that they're kind of taking away the one unique thing that they have to kind of standardize it with everybody else, because who knows what the next trend is going to be. And as a creative, you have to be ready for that. So, are you? And I think that's kind of a question we all have to ask.
Do you think that photography is not in danger, but do you think that it's going to encounter another era shift that was similar to when we went from having Polaroids to digital, and then from digital cameras to people having those like 8 megapixel cameras on their cell phone, and all of a sudden they think they're a photographer, but then those habits do remain, and now we have photographers that shoot only exclusively on mobile phones, where
Mhm.
15 years ago that was seen as like something that would never happen, and the photography
Mhm.
industry was very against it. Now with TikTok coming about, and it's seeming like you can still take aspects of your photography and implement them in video, is it possible that the next era that photographers are about to encounter is the inevitable shift to doing primarily or only video?
Mhm. That's a great question. I have thought about that. Like, where could photography go? I don't think kind of like any kind of analog or digital media doesn't ever really go away. It tends to just circle back on itself. I think it's totally possible that photography in the very short term, maybe 5 to 10 years, could totally kind of angle more towards the video. But there's always going to be sort of a place for the photo. A picture says 1,000 words. There's something emotional about a still image. Where we are now is that, as you noted, literally everybody is a designer. And I mean that in the best possible way. Everybody is a designer and everybody is a photographer and a videographer. We have those tools. I think that's great. So, really, as a photographer, it's your job to not replicate what you see, because you will be lost in the shuffle. So, it's like you have to challenge yourself to make not just a photo, but make an art piece. And that difference is subtle, but it's important. It's not just a filter you slapped on it. It's like, what is it saying? What are you saying? What moment is it capturing? And that's something that the medium that you choose to capture that moment with, it doesn't really matter. You could sit down and film a conversation between you and a friend. And if it manages to capture some kind of key emotion that no one else can do it, you've made art and it doesn't matter. You could take a screenshot of it and it's a photo. It like the media is less important than what you're communicating with your work. So I think it's just important to keep that in mind. It definitely helps if you have the means to just explore all these different avenues because you don't want to box yourself in forever in one box. Like photography is awesome, but I also draw, you know what I mean? And I've also been experimenting with video a little bit. I have a lot to learn, but it's cool. It's like we live in a, there's nothing valuable about digital images in sort of in a kind of sense. They're infinite. They're just kilobytes of data, right? There's nothing special about them really, unless you inject meaning into them. So that means you have so much room to fail, and it's better to fail creatively and learn from it and apply it to different medium and just become a better creative. I think it's cool to not have that analog restriction of having to spend hours developing an image. You can just do it in 2 seconds and fail and then go like, whatever, and try it again. I love that. I think that's really cool. And moving forward, no matter what direction photography goes, I think keeping that explorative, creative attitude is going to be really important.